I'm going to start with, well, putting on my glasses, because even though I have printed this in 15-point type, I'm still not able to see it clearly, which is another thing that I'm dealing with in this differently aging body. So I have a few scars from injuries and chicken pox, and some stretch marks on my hips when I had that big growth spurt at 12, and then more stretch marks on my belly, my breasts from when I was pregnant and nursing my babies. I have some extra freckles and moles from being out in the sun, and I have some gray hair. Some of you have more, some less. My outward appearance tells some of the stories of my life. I haven't had any major illnesses, nor have I had surgeries, so I don't know much about what my internal organs or systems look like. But I have a pretty decent roadmap of my heartbreaks, my fortitude, the lessons I've learned, and the ones I'm still trying to figure out. I bet you have some of these markers too. And yet, as amazing as our bodies and minds are, as advanced as technology and medicine get, neither I nor anyone else will be able to tell us everything about the body, mind, or soul. Because one of the most amazing parts of being alive is that we are always undergoing change. And every situation gives opportunities for learning, expanding, contracting, growing, pruning, whether we are immediately aware of the outcomes or not. This is why some folks seem to recover from illness or injury faster, or make a comeback that even doctors couldn't predict. Because our bodies are only part of the story. Our spirits, our souls are a mystery force behind any change, any improvement or decline in our physical health. Now, I chose this topic of sacred embodiment for a couple of reasons. First is because I talk about it a lot anyway, in my workshops and counseling practice, and in my writing. Now, Ken says I can plug the fact that I published my first book this spring, which I will do at the end of this talk. But much of that book talks about sacred embodiment in one way or another. Secondly, I chose this topic because as much as we Unitarian Universalists love to talk about ideas and actions and the social justice aspect of everything, we are not super great as a group in reflecting and talking about and honoring the miracle of living in a body. I believe that without this embodied experience that we are having, we cannot truly understand how cosmically divine we are individually and collectively. And without that connection, we are inhibited from doing the good work that we want to do with and for others. What does it mean to be embodied, or to view your body as sacred? What does it mean to embrace the limits and restrictions of the skin you're in, while also allowing the fullness of your mind and emotions to break the bonds of time and space and reconnect you with the greater cosmos? I see words from Rumi that speak to this embodied experience. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Being human is a guest house. I have often wondered, are we the guests or the hosts offering space to travelers? And can we be both? Can we fully live in our bodies and embrace the transience of these flesh suits and the emotions that move through us? And Rumi speaks only of the emotions that arrive and sometimes overwhelm us. But I think there are just as many physical sensations that can pull the rug out from under us. Remember the last time you stubbed your toe, or banged your elbow into a door frame, or got a migraine? And for some of us, the pain of larger illness, cancer, COPD, even COVID-19, are daily reminders of the supposedly unwelcome guest. Those two are guides. They remind us to slow down, watch where we're going, take time to rest, appreciate what is here. Often, when it comes to examining our lived experiences, we've had two strong arguments given to us. The first one, we are animals with biological processes, evolutionary adaptations, and limited lifespans. This argument can be fodder for YOLO, which for those of you non-millennials means you only live once. Those YOLO attitudes sometimes deny our responsibilities to others within the web of life and encourage pleasure-seeking behaviors that can have long-term detrimental effects. This idea that we are animals can also be used as evidence that spirituality is a fantasy with no concrete evidence, or it can be used as a denial to plan for the future of our species and our world. On the other side of the coin, there are those who say that we are souls trapped in a body so that we can learn to deny the needs and desires of the flesh and focus our attention on the greater lessons of spiritual living and seeking in order to transcend the earthly plane and take our place in heaven. I just don't think that covers it all. I think we are much more complex and interwoven than these views would suggest. We are not some sort of nesting doll with a soul in the center and layers of blood, organs, bones, and skin surrounding that soul, nor are we only electrified meat puppets with a big brain. We have bodies, we have emotions, we have thoughts about our bodies and emotions, and we choose actions consciously or unconsciously that honor or dishonor one or more of these aspects. To go back to the prism idea that I talked about in the opening words, we show or hide facets of ourselves based on situation, audience, our own internal perception of self and our persona, and the story we want to highlight about those facets. Right? Sometimes I tell the story of how I did this one thing because it's a funny story, and sometimes I'm talking about the pain that was caused by how I did that one thing. Depends on my audience. Nowhere do we play with light and shadow more than in the context of relationship. Now, I'm a firm advocate that life is relationship. We are always within a web of connection, even when we feel cut off or out of sync. We are always in relationship with ourselves, with our personal histories, with our hopes and dreams. Whether the relationship with someone else started with a work connection, a hobby or special interest class, another parent or grandparent at the park, a family member, or a romantic interest, we choose, though sometimes unconsciously, which parts of ourselves to reveal or obscure based on what we think is appropriate or welcome within that relationship. And thank goodness, right? That's actually fairly wise. No one needs to know about your dog's unlikely bowel movements while you're getting your car repaired. And your mom does not want to know about your drunken college activities. And your therapist isn't sitting with you to talk about how conflicted you are about which product will best clean the grout in your bathroom, or not usually. We bring forth the parts of ourselves that will best suit a situation, and the more intimate the relationship, the more parts of ourselves we are encouraged to share. Yet even then, in our closest relationships, we hide. We hide parts of our bodies. We hide stories that we think are embarrassing. We hide desires that we think are too weird or too shameful. There's nothing like getting naked in body or soul to bring up our internal judgment and unleash the shame monster, that voice that was installed by someone else about how we should look, act, want, perform, whatever. Shame pulls us away from embodiment. We can never fully inhabit the skin we're in with our feet on the ground and our awareness of our divinity while also living in the land of should. And when we aren't embodied, we often try to pull others off center as well. So this stuff is not new. So probably a lot of you have known or even participated in nonviolent communication, sometimes called NVC, just because it's easier to say. It's developed in the 60s by Marshall Rosenberg, who had worked with Carl Rogers, this eminent psychologist who talked about meeting his clients with unconditional positive regard. NVC is a method of communication strategies that emphasize empathy and compassion through understanding that people are always trying to get their very human needs met, and that conflict comes from the different ways people work and speak to get those needs met, mostly because the needs aren't actually stated and sometimes not even known. NVC uses our feelings, amorphous or overwhelming as they can be, as signposts, indicators of what the underlying needs are that we are trying to meet. So here in New York, there's a center for NVC. There's a center for everything, frankly. And they're currently not meeting because COVID. But they often have classes and mentorships and lots of different ways of learning how to use these tools. Founder and director of the New York City NVC is Tom Bond. He's been working with NVC for over 35 years. So I was looking to see what he had to say. He says this about self-awareness. And the way he describes self-awareness is very much what I call sacred embodiment. He says, we have this challenge in our culture of looking down upon our feelings. The conditioning for this starts early. Most of us have been called crybabies when we were younger. Most of us have been told that we're too emotional or instructed to man up or put your big girl pants on or cut that out when it comes to feelings. But our feelings are indicators. They are messengers that are trying to convey something, and that something is connected to our needs. In NVC, we start to live into this correlation between feelings and needs. We start to become more aware of our needs. This awareness begins with the body. He continues, I love my brain, and I love your brain, but I want to give my brain more information, and that's where my millions of years old body can help. We carry wisdom in our bodies. After years of this practice, my three favorite words now are, what is that? Meaning, what is this feeling trying to tell me? When we tune into our feelings and tap into our needs, our own or someone else's, then compassion arises spontaneously. We then have to act either on our own behalf or someone else's behalf. It happens not through conscious effort, but surfaces naturally. It's the energy of life running through us. I love that. When we tap into this energy of life, we cannot help but be embodied, since the body is where we feel most of this energy. Self-acceptance, feeling our feelings without judgment, without trying to make anything go away or be different, is the dial that can turn down the clamor of shame and blame and allows us to learn our internal landscape, find those facets of our prismatic self that we have shrouded or denigrated, and discover the ways to live into all of our edges. So during that recent meditation, I chose a song that I learned a couple of decades ago at a women's spirituality gathering. I sing this song every day as part of my own personal spiritual practice. With each line, I am reminded of my connection to the earth, my body, and my divinity, my cosmic energy self. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. These are the four elements that connect us to this planet, but their energies are larger. Earth-based religions focus on the divinity and the sacredness of life and life's energies as they are manifest in soil, rocks, animals and plants, in waters that flow and ebb, in the rush of wind with a gentle breeze, the fire of the sun that grows things, and the fire from a lightning strike that can destroy. All this is sacred. And because we cannot be separated from the life of the planet, we too are sacred. What does it mean to live with the knowledge of being sacred, holy, and having a body that even in the best and most optimal health means we deal with excrement, bruises, aches, confusion from trying to remember all the things on our to-do list, and bad hair days? Embracing sacredness moment to moment means gratitude, resilience, and shifting the prismatic focus to a facet that shows both ourselves and our surroundings with equal parts of brilliance, clarity, beauty, and compassion. The immense miracle of sensation, internal digestion or indigestion, knowing you have a pimple before you can see it on the surface of your skin, the way you can feel with your hand a cat, a bird, a worm, oh my God, a mosquito, These are the ways we know that we are fully human. And the ability to make meaning of it all, to create story and feel wonder, are the marks of our divinity. Sacred embodiment is the challenge of self-awareness, pulling our minds back from running in cycles of catastrophic thinking and the endless to-do list, to reconnect to our breath, the surroundings that are immediately in front of us, to the sounds we can hear, the food we eat, the feeling of the wind or rain on our skin, and the smell of the trash that needs to be taken out. It is recognizing the love that is available from lovers, family, friends, our animal companions, and stepping fully into the messiness of human interaction in body, mind, and soul. We are always more than we think we are. We are innately human and inherently divine, and so is the person who drives you crazy. Let us meet each other with compassion. All right, here is my not so shameless, very excited plug for my book. I have written a book called Mismatched Luggage, Unpacking Your Sexual Baggage for Your Spiritual Journey. It's very short, it's pithy. It's got some questions for reflection. You can use it as journal prompts. It's also got some practices in here for centering and becoming more embodied. If you're interested, you can contact me. I am super excited to share this work with you. I think we're ready for a hymn.